And on this episode of the Get Attitude podcast, we are going to be speaking with author Dan Jourdan. Dan is known as the Sales Energizer. He is the author of the book called Sales Proverbs. He also has a live show called The Pitch Man. Look, if you want to increase your gratitude, if you want to increase your courage, and most of all, if you want to figure out how to be kind, you're going to want to listen to this podcast. We are going to learn from Dan, but most of all, we're going to learn from his father, too. Can't wait for you to listen to this one. What is the roadmap to defeat self-sabotage, negative thinking, and learned helplessness? In these unprecedented times, you must get connected, get growing, get certain, and get attitude. The Get Attitude Podcast. And welcome to the GAP, the Get Attitude Podcast. This is Glenn Bill, the founder of the University of Attitude, author of the international best-selling book, The ABCs of Attitude, and your podcast host. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you need energy today, because I can promise you, our guest today is going to bring the energy. And for those of you who make money by selling, connecting, networking, this guy is one of the greatest coaches in America. Let's just take a quick look at who this is.
You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
And welcome to the Gap. What's up, Deej?
Gosh, you know that kind of revs me up.
Well, that
ready
should.
to roll right now.
As much money as we put in the production of our openings, I figured, what the hell? Let's use it.
That's good. That's good stuff. I tell you, that whole Sales Energizer moniker came about because of just annoying everybody in my family.
Right.
I mean, everyone's just like crazy. My phone is ringing as we're talking right now.
That happens.
Are you hearing that, or is that just me?
No, that's just you.
Okay.
We're good.
Right.
We're okay. Welcome to the Gap, my friend.
Yes, sir. I've been looking forward to this all year.
I know we've been talking. We've been talking for about a year. I need to get on. And I was on your what's the name of your podcast? Or is it the Pitch Man Live now, your new Amazon show? Are you off the podcast and on the live cast now, or what's going on?
Well, that's a great question. And it's one I get all the time. It's in this day and age right now, in this special time in the world, it's no longer an either or. It's an and.
Right.
It's an and. You really do have the time to do everything now. You're not driving anywhere. You're not putzing around. You're not schlepping back and forth. You don't have that. You have no excuses anymore. You can do the and. And so if you manage your day, if you schedule it, if you study your calendar, if you study your day's events and don't just like pass it off and let it happen to you, baby, there is so much you can get done right now. It's magical. It's just magic. So it's and. I have the Sales Energizer podcast. I got DJ Live. That's the live show that you were on. We do all that. And then the new thing is the Pitch Man, which is on Amazon,
Boom.
Which is I think the horse that everybody needs to start riding right now. That baby is rolling.
I love it. I love it. And so there you go, Gappers. Here's the deal. Quit making excuses and start making appointments, baby, because that's where it's at. Make appointments with yourself and everybody else. Excuses, the last time I checked, pay nothing. Dan Jourdan is the author of Sales Proverbs, Wisdom of the Ages. and he loves sales. And if you are on LinkedIn, I want you to follow Dan, because every day you will get a Dan Jourdan video, but it's Jourdan. I always call it Jourdan, but it's Jourdan.
Well, no, it's actually Daniel Jourdan. C'est français, huh? It's like who's your producer again? What's his name?
Jason.
Jason. Yeah, it's like Jason.
Okay.
But it's really Jourdan. But what happens is I moved to Georgia, and so from Daniel Jourdan, it turned into Dan Jourdan. So I'm happy with Dan Jourdan.
Well, it worked for Michael.
Yes.
But I'll call you Dan Jourdan. I always call you Dan Jourdan, or the Sales Energizer Bunny. And Jason, our producer, is so cool. If you are watching this on YouTube, you're going to see all the cool stuff that Dan's doing. Is that I got vaccinated picture up there, Dan?
Oh, no, well, I don't get that. Actually, I just got kicked out of my office because I'm not going to wear the muzzle. So absolutely not.
It's open to work. Yeah, my wife is not. She is totally against vaccination, but we won't even go there, because this is a podcast about attitude. This is a podcast about sales. This is a podcast that is helping people bridge the gap from where they are to where they want to be, from who they are to who they want to become. Dan, tell me this. What advice can you give our people in both of those areas? What's your secret getting from who you were at 21 to who you are now? How did you bridge the gap?
Wow. I was thrown into it, as most people were, but I realized it's not, I was always looking to become a certain person, and I followed people that had certain values that I appreciated. And so there's three main values that my family and we have written on our wall, and it's our big thing that we do. And there's three values. One is gratitude. The next is courage. And the next is kindness. And so if we're grateful, courageous, and kind, and things get rolling from there. And that's the kind of person that I wanted to be. When you have that, when you know that where you want to be, you just figure out a way to get there. That's
what it is. I love it.
Yeah.
I think those are three good mantras for everybody listening, and to step back and say, really, how grateful am I? Let's give them a...
Well, that's my thing. So the first thing to do when you wake up in the morning, if somebody's looking for a specific habit to get them on the right path, just try to say thank you when you wake up in the morning.
Right.
Just thank you. First thing, wake up in the morning, say thank you. And not to anyone or to anything, but just the act of saying thank you puts you in a spirit of gratefulness. And the next question you ask yourself, because most people listening to this are human, you don't have many lawyers listening, do you? But if you're human, and you're listening and you say thank you, you're going to ask yourself, thankful for what? What am I saying thank you to? And then you find yourself looking for reasons to be grateful, and it just changes your whole day.
I love it. And so then let's delve into the courage end of things. Tell me about what does courage mean to you? Is courage, in fact, an attitude? And how do you teach or reach courage?
Yeah, well, step one, as in everything, is you need to want it. And so you ask yourself that question: is what Zig Ziglar said it best. Is what I'm doing now getting me closer to or further from my goals? And so that question that you ask all day is what I'm doing now exhibiting courageousness or something other than courageousness? And I always think that anything other than courageousness is an obstacle. It's a brick wall in between you and wherever you're trying to go. Being courageous to get the no, being courageous to ask a question, being courageous to walk in unannounced, being courageous to love, being courageous to hurt, being courageous to risk.
I love it.
I just find that's where life is. I give speeches, I give presentations, and people, in front of people, keynote speeches, and it's a big risk for the people hiring me, because I tell them, I'll tell you what the outcome is. People are going to leave this audience. They're going to feel better about themselves. They're going to be better employees, and they're going to love you for hiring me. But how we get there, I have no idea. Right. I have no idea what I'm going to say. And that's your risk.
And,
You know?
and so I obviously you customize stuff, but I'm sure you probably have some pattern, but you really go in more of an impromptu type of thing, Dan, when you're speaking?
I'm the ad-lib speaker, baby. Now, I have a million stories. I'm terribly dyslexic, so I remember things in stories. And so, like, if you said, cobweb, I'm going to come up with a story about cobwebs.
Right. I got you.
Now I'm challenging myself.
Now, let me ask you this. Tell me, what is your definition of attitude?
Well, it's actually unplanned for. I have the perfect definition for it. It's control, and it's the only time you're in control. Everything else happens to you. Your attitude comes from you, and it's a magic pill. It's a magic bullet because you can control people with your attitude. I'm from New Jersey. I live in Atlanta now, but I'm from New Jersey. And New Jersey, people are just mean in New Jersey. I mean, not because they want to be mean. It's just they have to be. I went home for my like 30-year high school reunion. I saw a guy, Robert Buxbaum. I saw Robert Buxbaum. I haven't seen him in 30 years. Here's Robert Buxbaum. He goes, "Hey, Deej, come over here. You know who was asking about you?" I said, "Who?" He said, "No one." People are just mean, in New Jersey. But I used to play this game there. I used to play that if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody, I smile at them. And it'd say, like you smiled back. You smiled back not because you wanted to, but it's the law. I forced you to smile. So when I did that, I win. I get a point. I never lost in New Jersey. I came here to Atlanta. First day I'm here. I'm walking down the street. Somebody's walking to me. They say, "Hi, how you doing?" I lost the first time.
Well, so because they beat you to it.
Yeah, they beat me to it. And so I said, I got to move here. That's what happened. But yeah, you can, with your attitude, you are in control. And with that control, you can affect the lives of others. And quite frankly, that's your charge in life.
I love it. Now, talk to me. Who was your first attitude coach?
Oh, my dad, of course.
Right on. Talk to us.
Yeah,
what was his name and what did he teach you?
Oh, Monsieur Henri Jourdan, le fils de anyway, so Daniel Jourdan, le fils de Henri de Paris. My father's from Paris.
Oh.
So, all right. So a quick, just like Jasson. So okay, I'll tell this story if you want to go there. All right. So my dad lived in war-torn France, in Nazi-occupied France. We're Jewish. And so he had when he was 13, he lost his dad in the Holocaust, in Auschwitz. I don't want to get into it, but this is where he's coming from. So he came to America, and my dad never had a bad day. I mean, not one bad day. And one day I was all right, you're going to get it. One day I was in my bedroom and I was upset about something at school, something that happened. And I was probably 13, 14 at the time, something like that. And I was blowing something out of proportion. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm having a bad day." And I went to tell him. And so he had never done this before. He never told me stories about anything before. And he goes, "Bad day, huh?" He goes, "Let me ask you this. Have you ever just walked out on the street one day and you had your friends come up to you and they said, they got him. They got your dad. And you go and you find out that he was taken right off the street. I mean, out of nowhere, just taken right off the street and put into like a camp. And from that camp, they were going to put him on a train and take him to a concentration camp. And so you go to the camp hoping that you're going to see him, but you never saw him again for the rest of your life. But you did see a guard, and the guard was wearing the family ring that he never took off his finger.
Yes.
He said, tell me about your day. You having a bad day?"
Right.
Put everything in perspective. He said, "Danny," and with this little French Jewish accent, he said, "Danny, in this country, on your worst day, they don't throw babies in the air and catch them on pitchforks.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just like melting. I'm just like a mess,
Right.
But totally put things in perspective. And every day, it's so easy to fall into the trap of, the world around you. But every day you just have to cleanse. I go through like a cleansing thing in my mind. I almost like imagine putting like an oxygen helmet on, like a deep sea diver would use. And I turn on the oxygen, and in here is the only fresh air, and out there is all the poison. And I breathe in the fresh air, and puts everything back in perspective. And I learned that from my dad too.
I love it. Well, your dad's legacy lives through the Get Attitude podcast. Certainly, we talk about the unprecedented times and all that. And again, the worst day in America is hardly compared to what your father went through. So I think it's a great story. It's an important story to tell, and it's a important story for our gappers to hear. So when they wake up, their perspective changes. And when you wake up and you open your LinkedIn, Dan's LinkedIn post, you're like rocket, like at 6:30 in the morning. It's earlier. Is it the same time every morning that you do your Sales Energizer tip of the day?
Yeah, I realize in terms of sales, I'm a fan of consistency. I think consistency outweighs skill all day long, and so I'm a pretty obsessive compulsive person, and so I'm consistently doing. I mean, it's why people think that I'm a drinker or I do drugs. I've never tried drugs, not because I'm a goody two shoes. It's just that I know I'd love it. I mean, I'd be the biggest. It would be crazy, but I can't do it. So yes, I wake up early, and I like to be productive all day. So I'll wake up at 3:34 in the morning. I get up. I'm in the office at 5:15, 5:30.
Oh wow!
And from 5:15, 5:30, I do my stuff until about 8, and then 8 o'clock people start coming in, and then we can start the day. But by the time people are just getting going, I'm in my full stride. And one of the things about sales and life and keeping a good attitude is always one of the harmful things that can happen with one's attitude is when you're always catching up. You're always running just a little bit late. You're always just fighting to do it, and you're never doing your best, and it eats at you on the inside. And there are some easy wins that you can to help yourself, take advantage of everybody else messing up. And one of the easiest wins is to wake up early, man.
Yeah.
I just wake up early.
Well, that would indicate that you go to bed early too. For those 9
o'clock,
right?
But I don't just fall asleep. I collapse.
Right.
I give 100% and I collapse. I'm exhausted.
I love
fall
it.
asleep in about 2 seconds.
Dan, what do you think? You talk to a lot of people and you're in front of a lot of people. What's the biggest attitude mistake, number one, of people or the public in general, which maybe you've hit on, but number two, because I believe everybody's in sales. I don't care who you are, what your profession is. You're always selling. What's the biggest mistake people are making in sales today or in their attitude today?
Yeah, people kind of exaggerate what they could do long term. And minimize what they can do today. Like I'd never be able to do all that stuff today, but if I stay on this path, I'll get it in a long time. They think, they set their goals all messed up. I think people need to set daily goals and activities to change your mindset into thinking instead of all the different things you have to do. I take into there's two categories of things. There's money-making activities and non-money-making activities. And I'm talking directly to salespeople right now because this money's an important thing. So because like everything is an activity. Sleeping is an activity. It's just not a money-making activity unless you could do something like Amazon Live. So with that in mind, and by taking your calendar and really studying it, you could see where you're being busy, where you're doing busy work, and where you need to improve. But the number one thing a salesperson needs to do to improve their attitude is get rid of that white space. I mean, put something in there. You could put thinking time in there or what have you, but you got to put, you want to find the devil? You want to find the devil? You have a couple of days with no appointments. I mean, you start questioning all your life's decisions. You start beating yourself up. You start thinking thoughts about yourself that you would never impart upon somebody else. That's where evil exists in the white spaces. Control that calendar.
The great title for a book, The Devil's in the White Space. Hello. Check that.com. We'll see. I love that, Dan. That's so powerful and so good. Tell me about the greatest sale you ever made.
Came to Atlanta to visit a friend. Takes me to a party. Meet some girl. Blonde hair. Southern accent. Bakes pies. I'm thinking, this place is great. I went back home, moved here 2 weeks later, asked the girl to go out with me. She says no. I go, what? I'm like, I moved here. And she's like, well, I have a boyfriend. What are you going to do? And so I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I found I had an event to go to. So the next week I called her up again. She says no. And I said, all right, well, I'll talk to you next week. And so I kept calling 26 times. On the 27th week, 6 months, she finally agreed to go out with me. I had really great tickets to a Met game at Fulton County, Brave game, I guess, whatever.
Right.
And so we went out and had a great time. I got a ball from Doc Gooden. I still have the ball.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's right there. I got a ball from Doc Gooden. He was on, and it was kind of funny. I ran up and called my dad, tell him about it. But and then that girl, and so 25 years later, we're still married with 2 great kids, and it worked out well. And I asked her early on. I said, why did you finally agree to go out with me? And, we were married and all this stuff. And she said, well, I figured if you were willing to work this hard to get me, you'd be willing to work equally as hard to keep me.
I love it. That is cool.
And that was but by the way, she hasn't baked a pie since, I'll tell you that. But she, that was by far my best sale. And I have to earn that sale every day.
I like it. That's called repeat and referral business on a daily basis, people.
Every day. My dad gave me some advice on that too. He said, Danny, in this country, when you get married, if you expect 50-50, you get divorced.
Right.
He says, Danny, you give 90% and hope you get 10% back.
Right.
And to his credit, he said the same thing to her. And so, it seemed to work out. But that's how sales is. And that's how business is. That's what I want to do. I give 90. If you give me $10, I'm giving you $90 back in value. That's how good I believe my product is. And if a salesperson believes that their product is that good, if you have the cure for cancer, dude, I got the cure for cancer. I'm not interested. Are you out your mind? I got the cure for cancer. If you believe that about your product, that it's that valuable, you're not taking money from them. You're giving them. That mindset, that attitude shift, it changes the whole equation. Because as our friend says, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy.
The great Jeffrey Gitomer. So tell me this. I want to know the worst business decision you ever made or the worst sale that you ever lost.
Well, every entrepreneur has a story like this, so this isn't something special. But I've lost $1 million twice. And so you're constantly. My problem with my wife always says, "Why do we always have to start from zero?"
Right. Right.
But so I make those decisions. But those are business, entrepreneurial, investment things, whatever. But the biggest sale that I lost, and it's totally my fault. And by the way, that's how I handle mistakes. Totally my fault. Let's move on.
Right.
I don't waste any time on the why. People talk about don't worry about your what, worry about your why. I couldn't care less about the why.
Me neither.
The why's done. I worry about what.
Yes.
If people would know what they want, if you ask people, what do you want? Half of them don't know. 90% of people don't know.
Right.
If you don't know what it is, you'll never get there. So just worry about the what. We'll figure out the why later. No, but I know your why. You want to help people. You want to be remembered. You want a statue.
Right.
I know the why. But
overused.
But the worst mistake.
Go ahead.
The sale. Yeah, I'm like Mr. Tangent, but I'll always come back. It was a subsidiary of AT&T, and I had a staffing company at that time, and I had been working on them for 2 years. And the lady loved me, but she's like, "We got a contract. I can't do it. We were a smaller company. They were with a bigger company. She goes, "I might be able to work it in, but we're coming up for a new contract." And I said, and so finally, out of the blue, she calls me up. She goes, "Now's the time. Give me a proposal." With an email, she sent that to me. And so I sent it to my assistant, Ginger. And I said, "Ginger, put together a proposal. And, hey, we're finally got a shot at this. Let's make it look good, blah, blah, blah. This is a big account. I don't know if, let's see if we can make it happen." And so she sent me the proposal back. I read through it. It was very good. And then I forwarded the email with all those remaining emails on it with my correspondence with Ginger. And the lady got it. And she's like, "No."
Yeah.
I blew it because I forwarded it instead of just making a new email. Laziness. And
right. Yeah. Lack of attention to detail. Hey, great sales tip. Be careful when you forward. There's no.
So that was a $250,000 a year account.
So let's talk about. Love Adversities, number 7 on the attitude boosters, right? You mentioned that you lost $1 million twice. We have gappers. We have people who have lost jobs, who've lost family due to COVID, who have lost their money that have lost, period. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about your attitude, your perspective on loss, how you came back from it. What was the formula? Because look, you lose $1 million, you got to restructure, rethink, and create some strategies. Yeah. What do you tell our people who are dealing with loss right now, and how did you come back from it?
Well, you're always still coming back, but first thing is take care of what you still have. And so when we were going through those trying times, step one was maintain a marriage. And so I always, listen, I got to take care of this home thing. I mean, if you, in America, another one of my dad's thing, Danny, this country, America, you can make 1,000 business mistakes. He says, America will always give you a second chance. He goes, you make 1 or 2 bad personal mistakes, and you pay for them for the rest of your life.
Man, is that good.
Marry the right woman. And so remember what you have. You got to take care of the family. So that's step one. Step one is come home, total honesty. Chach, that's what I call my wife. Chach, I did it again.
Oh, shit.
I mean, it's a tough thing. What are you talking about? We're on the hook for that piece of property there. It's $400,000.
It was a real estate deal.
Well, it was. I lent money. 2008. Whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows
what
what happened?
Well, the greatest time in America.
I co-signed for somebody, and then he ran off. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know the story.
Yes.
But okay. So. That was take care of. Now I'm a level playing field. All I ever hope to do is to start from zero. See, in this day and age, you could whistle right past zero. Yes. I mean, you could just fall $1 million below zero. I don't care. Just get me to zero, and now I can put my feet somewhere I can go. My mindset is always that if you're not growing, you're shrinking. It's Tony Robbins. If you're not growing, you're shrinking. If you're not climbing, you're sliding. There's no in between. It's like you're never all set. The day you say to yourself, I just want to get all set, you're automatically putting a limit on yourself on where you could go. So that's never the goal. The goal is to continue continually excel and grow in the spirit of abundance and all that, and productivity. And so if that's the mindset, you're never really stopped. You're never really stuck. You're not against the wall. With that mindset, you're always in motion. And those I'll just call them vibrations without sounding too metaphysical. But the energy, called the sales energizer, the energy that you put out just with a simple idea has to go somewhere. And once those hopes and dreams and vibrations and put you on a different plane, eventually it all comes back. But it's always motion. So you. All right, I'll give you this. So this is what happens. When you provide enough value, I mean real value, the type of value like doing daily videos for people, inspiring people and motivating people, which has to be done daily because it's like brushing your teeth. The effects of it don't last. You got to keep on doing it. But when you provide enough value, you create a void in the universe. There's a hole in the universe. And because the universe always has to be even, Stephen, it fills in. So it just happens. So if I give you value, Glenn-Bill, and I have no expectation, I mean zero expectation that I'm going to get anything back from you. I have as much expectation that you're going to repay me as I see, we'll see Godzilla walking down the street. It will not happen. But I have full expectation, 100%, that the universe will pay me back. Sure. In multitudes. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about motion. When you're stuck or when you're feeling that sense, you could. I don't know. I'm talking about my dad so much today. You got me started. But he only had a 6th grade education, so he didn't give me much advice. But the stuff that he gave me, I always remembered. But one of them was this: Danny, in this country, you could work or you could worry. Can do both. And so motion. I
love it. Well, it sounds to me like even though you lost $1 million twice, possibly my guess would be we've all lost our parents. The loss of your father, probably the biggest loss, right, ever in your life. How did you get through that? There's people that are listening to us now who've had just as influential relationships, right, with their parents or grandparents. You remember that time? Can you take yourself back to that time and how did you get through it, or what was your thought or attitude when that all occurred?
Sure. Well, my dad and I really did. I guess everybody has a special relationship, and he was crazy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my mom and dad got divorced, and probably for good reason. By the way, in this book, I have a whole section in the back, sales of Papa-isms.
Oh, I love it. So, that's good. So that is Sales Proverbs, Wisdom from the Ages. Make sure you guys get it. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. Wow, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is again, what are you going to do about it? That was another one. I'm just reading this, but anyway, so my first business was a deli, DJ's Country Deli.
Yes.
And I took my college money that my parents had saved, but I was mad because they got divorced. And so I said, screw you guys. I took the money and I bought a butcher shop and I turned it into a deli and it did well. I had it for 7 years and finally I sold it, and I was 25 years old and I sold it for $170,000.
Wow.
More money than I had ever seen. Crazy. And I took all that money and I put it in an investment account. And my proudest moment is that money, I didn't take any of it. That money paid for my father's retirement for the rest of his life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was my thing. So my dad, and then his last 9 years, he lived with us for a while and then into a nursing home. So with my dad, nothing was left unsaid. So when he finally did pass, I was actually on stage. I was on stage giving a presentation. There were 300 people there. And my son, Matthew, who was maybe 13 then, ran up on stage. Give me the phone. I'm going to cry. Forget it. Anyway, so that's
a big day.
Yes. So, but he said to me towards the end, can't believe you're doing this to me. He said to me towards the end, because I said, Dad, you're giving up. I mean, what's going on here? He's like, he was being depressed or whatever he was. And he was kind of losing his mind. But in one of his kind of lucid moments, he said to me, it was still like the most rational thing. He said, Danny, I've got a daughter. She's married, has 2 kids. I got a son. You're married, got 2 kids. Everyone's healthy. What am I doing here?
Unbelievable. So cool.
And so that was Papa. And so he was a crazy dude. And so, yeah. So how do you overcome it? Hopefully the end, you're living your life to the point that it's the natural occurrence of things. And then you move on and honor the person who died by living a good life.
That's cool. And you've certainly done that on our podcast today. It's great. Maybe you're going, what the hell? I ended up just a podcast about my dad. But I can tell you this. Everybody that listens to The Gap has a dad. Not everybody that listens to The Gap is a dad. But I think there are, this has definitely been a unique interview. It's been fantastic. You've been dropping bombs. You have been just giving so much of yourself and so much of your heart and your mind. That there are lessons to be taken from this podcast today. And I hope that our Gappers have enjoyed the great Dan Jourdan. And we are going to be back after this sponsorship message to go into knowledge through the decades with the great sales energizer, Dan Jourdan. And we are back at the Get Attitude podcast with the one and only Dan Jourdan. He is the author of Sales Proverbs, Wisdom of the Ages. Dan is one of the best sales trainers and sales speakers that there are in America. He's on stages everywhere. His website is danjourdan.com. He has a live show on Amazon called The Pitch Man. And if you need an attitude boost, if you need an energy boost, if you need a sales technique, income boost, if you just need a boost, this is a guy that you want to follow. You can reach him at Dan Jourdan or Dan at danjourdan.com. Dan, welcome back. It's time, bro. We're going to walk through your life and do knowledge through the decades. You ready to go?
I'm actually mildly nervous. That's good.
I love it. So here's the deal.
Actually, I love that. I love that little feeling you get right before when you're sitting in the chair waiting for, to walk up on stage, that little, when you forget everything.
Yes.
I love that.
It's something. I always say it's as close to playing football as I could ever get to.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do. This is fun. This is highly edited. So if you screw it up, we'll just cut it. Don't worry. There's no pressure.
They don't call me One Take Jourdan for nothing.
I love it. I love it, man. This is my brother from another mother. This is my Jewish brother. So good. All right. So Dan, when you think about childbirth, I don't know if you remember being born, but if you did remember being born, what is the attitude lesson of a newborn baby?
Oh my gosh, talk about purity. The attitude is totally at one with your physical body. Wake up when you're done sleeping, go to sleep when you're done waking. It's the part, eat when you're hungry. Kids don't overeat. You gotta be a grown up to do that stuff. They're perfect. You're perfect at that time. And to get back that, imagine if you only ate when you were hungry.
Hello. That's like attitude booster number 9, eat right and exercise. And when we mean eat right, how many times have people said, and I've done this, I'm not even hungry. And then they put down a pound of macaroni and bacon.
Right. I know. And it's because it's 6 o'clock or it's 7 o'clock or it's whenever you eat. And what if time is a man-made construct. We don't have time for this. I got good stuff, but that was the other part of the podcast.
Well, go ahead. You can tell me. It's fine. We're good.
Well, time is a man-made construct. It doesn't know. Your body doesn't know it's Tuesday. Your body doesn't know it's Wednesday. You got to have potluck dinner at church. It doesn't know that stuff. The universe doesn't know that. So you're making that. You're putting that. Those limitations or those barriers or those margins in your life. You can create whichever ones you want. It's just like your attitude. You can decide, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry, and you'll find out that all of a sudden you're not hungry when everybody else is eating.
It's so true. I love that. So, Dan, now what I want you to do is walk back. You're in 3rd or 4th grade in New Jersey, right? Tell me, I'd love to know who your teacher was, just to give her a shout out if you remember. What was your attitude lesson when you were 10, and what was going on in your life, and what did it teach you being 10?
Miss Morgan, and she was hot, but 3rd grade in specifically, I remember the horror and the fear, because we would read, and everybody would read a paragraph. We were learning how to read from a book out loud, and I would like see all the paragraphs that everybody was reading and try to get mine and practice it ahead of time before it came up to me, because I realized I was terribly dyslexic. And everything's upside down and spinning and backwards and crazy. And to take it from the page to my brain and then out my mouth was it's a devastating process. And I thought everybody was like that. I just thought it was difficult. So I had to really work at it. And it was 3rd grade in did I say Miss Morgan or Miss Phillips? You know what happened? She got married. She 2-timed me, and she got married and changed her name. But I realized that it was going to take work to get this out. I also realized, I remember my first joke in class. It was in 3rd grade, and was someone that they went to it was some bathroom joke or whatever it was. But I remember I got a laugh from the whole class.
Yeah, baby.
And I till this day, I'm 55. I remember how it felt to have that laugh.
Every speaker's dream. The room roar.
That's right.
I want to just rabbit hole this dyslexia thing. First person on our show that's had this, and look, it's prevalent. It's out there. There are parents that are dealing with learning disabled kids. I was, they didn't do anything for me except beat me up and throw me in a closet, and the nuns would hit my hands. They thought that would cure the ADD and learning disabilities, but it didn't. But it did get my attention. Talk to me, or if you can, talk to the parents or the people out there that maybe what you went through, how you fixed it, and who helped you through it? And if you ended up having a kid like that, what's the best thing you can do to help a kid with dyslexia?
By the way, this is the best podcast I've ever been on. That's a great question. That was just awesome.
Thank you.
And I'll answer it because my son, too, it was terribly, just like me, even worse than me. And so I could share exactly what I did and how I dealt with Matthew, and what an option that really everybody can take. And so it's 6th grade. I'm in the bed at Matthew at 4:30 in the morning, because that's when his brain worked, and we're doing homework and reading at 4 in the morning, and we're reading the book, and the same word. I mean, it's just same. I go, can you not see that? He says yes, but he sees the different word.
Sure.
And so it was so frustrating, and it's so heartbreaking when your kid, you could tell he's trying, and he's fake yawning and all this stuff to stop doing it. And finally he looks at me with resolute in his eyes, stares right at me, looks up and says, "Daddy," he says, "I'd give you 12 years. I am not going to college." He said this in 6th grade, and I said, "Good. Well, what are you going to do?" Which is like one of my dad's lines again. Okay, that's fine. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
Not mean like, hey, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
It's just, what are you going to do? And he says, "I'm going to start a business." Then remarkably, pretty soon after that, we had this terrible storm in the neighborhood, trees down, carpet out on the streets, all people milling about, one of those fun kind of things. And so we're walking around the neighborhood. Matthew looks at me, says, "Daddy," he sees the carpet. He says, "I bet you they pay us $100 to take that to the dump." Next thing I know, the punk is knocking on their door. I get a load of carpet in the back of my truck. He earned $100. I'm like, what? So we're driving to the dump. I watched his brain, like smoke coming out of his ears, and he was like building a business. And he came home and he made flyers, and I followed him like a goofball in the truck, and he's knocking on doors. And his first day out, he's picking up like lawnmowers on the side of your house, you know, a couch, an old chair. First day out, he earned $250.
There you go.
I said, Matthew, this is crazy. He looks at me, he says, Daddy, you just don't understand. I'm like, all right, boy, he's 11. He's 11. Wow. I said, all right, boy, you know, enlighten me. He says, Daddy, you think these people are giving me their old chairs and couches and lawnmowers because they want to get rid of their chairs and couches and lawnmowers? And I said, duh, that's what they're doing. He says, no, Daddy. He says, they're giving me these things. 11. They're giving me these things because it makes them feel good to do business with an 11-year-old.
That's why they buy, right?
That little bastard. You see, he innately, while he can't tell the difference between and the, right. He, at that age, and your kids at that age, they know their value.
Yes.
They know their gift to the world. It takes school to beat it out of them.
Right. Amen. Ain't that the truth? Right. And so to, you know, bring that, I guess, question to a close, It sounds like
get them busy.
Yeah. Get them busy. Identify, appreciate, encourage, and trust that the vibrations of the world maybe can tell them and that they can hear those vibrations. This is what I meant to do, not to freaking stand up and read a damn paragraph of a book that I don't want. Go towards that which you're naturally good at. Nice. And he had a friend who a wonderful little girl, and she wanted to be a lawyer, and she was really trying to convince Matthew, go to college, I'm going to be a lawyer. And Matthew just looked at her and he said, I want you to go and become a lawyer and become a good one. That way, when you come back, I can hire you. Yeah. I love it. By the way, he got the scholarship here in Georgia. They have a Hope scholarship. He got the scholarship. He did go to college for one day. Oh my gosh. He went for one day, and then he went through the administration office, and he called me up. It was the funniest phone call. He called me up. He said, Daddy, he had already quit, by the way. Daddy, you knew I was going to quit eventually. He goes, why don't we do it now and save the money? Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so good. How cool is that? Well, let's move on from the 10-year-old Dan Jourdan. Let's go to age 20. I don't know if that's when you bought your sub shop or whatever, but where were you at 20, and what was the attitude lesson from 20? Gosh, you're just hitting the right ages. So I had bought my deli when I was 18. Wow. And so when I was 21 through that year, actually 22, about the 22 time, I'll stay there because it's a better story. My friends were coming home for college, and I'm like, I think I missed something because I didn't go to college. Tell me all these stories. So I went and did something that I had always wanted to do, and I set the store up with a manager, and I took off, and I went hitchhiking across the country with the idea to find myself. Took no money. The idea was to get jobs all along the way, meet as many people as possible, and it turned out to be 8 months. I was gone for 8 months. Wow. Living on the side of the road, doing all I have to do, staying in hostels, getting jobs. And I learned from that experience sales lessons that I still use today. Awesome. It was a time where I was the most alive. I've had several, life-changing moments, but I'll tell you about one. I was in Texas, and by the way, Texas it's just big. It's big on the map. It's everything. It's big. And some days you just wanted to walk because you just wanted to kind of find yourself. I eventually got picked up by a guy one day in Texas, and he stopped the car and he looked at me. He goes, "Son, the only reason why I'm picking you up is because I saw you on this same road this morning while I was going to work." It was like 8 hours later. I was still on the same road. But I was there in Texas, and I'm walking,
and I had a backpack and all that stuff. And sometimes you just wanted to think. And so I was doing that. And all of a sudden I just like hit a virtual wall. I don't know what it was. And it was just like, I couldn't move. And I felt like there was a pin. I haven't thought about this in years, a pin in the top of my head. And it was like pinning me to the ground through my body. And I broke down in tears. I didn't know what was happening. It was just like, I was like stuck. And then there was a moment of clarity that everything made sense. It was like I saw it all. And if the world ended, if all the total conveniences, if everyone was gone, the Deej was going to be just fine. I think I saw God that day.
That's cool. So what was the moment of clarity? Can you, are there words to describe it, or was it just like this feeling or like a blessing, or, it was like...
It was just, it was fresh air.
Right.
It was lacking of any obstacles. There was no fear. There was no anxiety. There was no insecurity. There was no need to be right, need to be wrong, need to be rich. There was no need. It was just, you're part of the whole thing.
Wow. That, guys, that take right there, make sure we excerpt that one, is quite possibly one of the best attitude lessons our people could get. So that's great. So now all of a sudden you're becoming a man and you're 30 years old.
Yes.
Talk to me about where you were at 30. Were you married? Were you having your kids? What was going on at 30? And what was the attitude lesson that you took from 30?
Yeah, well, you heard the story about my wife. I was 30 when I got married.
Okay.
And so that was the year. And I had taken the lesson from my parents, and I told my wife, Chach, I said, finally she's saying, when are we going to get married? What's going on? And I wasn't going to marry her because I wasn't going to get divorced. I said, listen, I am not getting divorced. I am not getting divorced. And I'm annoying. Like, I know I'm annoying. I mean, it's cute and funny at the beginning. You got all this stuff going on. But then, after, you think it's going to end. It doesn't end.
25 years.
Yeah. And so I wouldn't get married until she hated me.
Right.
Until you saw me at my worst and you just kind of hated me. And one day that happened. And she's like, well, you're so annoying, like that. And then I said, now, do you still want to get married?
I love it. Oh, that's so good, man.
Yeah. And so I was I think by 30 I had come into my own. I knew what I wanted. I wanted a good woman. I wanted a few kids, and I wanted, at that point I wasn't a dad yet, but I sure wanted to be one.
Yeah. Well, I can tell how proud you were talking about your son, that you're an awesome dad. Let's go to 40. That's almost when you met Glenn Bill at the Gittimer thing. I think you were maybe mid-40. That was about 10 or 11 years ago. I can't even believe it.
Was it really?
Yeah, can you believe that? So what do you remember? Do you remember you having your 40th birthday party? What was going on in your life, and what was the attitude lesson?
Yeah, I don't remember the 40th birthday party. I think, at that point you're in the game, you got young kids and all that stuff. And so you're just flying to see the parents. I remember the big fear was that I would die before my kids would remember me. Like that was a fear. I wanted to get both kids to age 7,
Cool.
And so let's say when Sophie was born in 2000, I guess that would have been about 40. Yeah. So my attitude at that point was somewhat relaxing.
Cool.
I think I had done my job there. I remember. I do remember this. I remember Chach and my wife and I would, many people have date nights, and so we would have date nights to do. My in-laws lived very close by, and so funny story about my in-laws. They got divorced when my wife was 2, and they both had separate marriages, and then their spouses died. They've been together now.
Oh,
they've gotten back together. Isn't that crazy?
Story.
I remember telling my wife, I said, if I were to die today, I would have had twice the life that I had expected.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
so
good.
I started my journey of gratefulness, I think, about that time.
That's good. That's good. At 40, I love it. So now 50, you're double nickels. You remember 5 years ago, you started this fifth decade where I am too. And tell me, if when you look back 5 years ago, where were you 5 years ago? Are you where you hoped you were? What was your attitude? What was your thought process when you hit that big 50 number? That attitude.
Yeah, I think at 50, I was just coming off the second big loss.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was just coming off that thing. But I remember the excitement. I've always wanted to be 50.
Right.
I kind of loved that age. I loved to be able to say, yeah, I'm 50. I like 55 now too. It's a cool age.
Oh yeah.
But I was like the 50 number. It got to a point where more people were calling me sir. I kind of like that. I have gray hair now, but I started getting a little then. And, the good thing about getting some gray hair is that you can tell women that they're pretty without them thinking you're hitting on them.
Amen, brother. Right.
Because you like to do that. You like to make people feel good.
Sure.
But I think I remember when I was a stockbroker early on, we would always be looking for clients that were between 50 and 55.
Sure.
Kids were about to, move on to college. Their life changing was happening, probably earning more money than they've ever earned before. And so I remember thinking, I'm in a good swing right now. And really that kind of feeling hasn't left.
Right, the old sweet spot. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been one of the more entertaining knowledge through the decades, Dan. That was awesome. We really appreciate you being here, giving your heart, giving your mind, taking us from the purity of a baby, taking us to 10 where you wanted to work, to 20 where you felt alive and found yourself, to 30 when you gained clarity, to 40 when you began to relax and began to start your path towards gratitude, in 50 where you hit your sweet spot and maybe it's all coming together for you. And I hope that our gappers enjoyed Dan. I think he gave us a lot of lessons. His father gave us a lot of lessons. This is a fantastic podcast to share with people you love, because I think there's a lot of love that was communicated in this podcast. Dan, you knocked it out of the park, my brother. Tell me this.
Only for you. I bring my best for you.
You are the man. So here's what I'd love you to do is talk directly to our audience. Talk to that person that's had a financial reversal, a personal reversal, an employment reversal, a sales reversal. What's the message from the Deej that they can take as we close our podcast?
Yeah, that's great. Well, listen, every day really is another chance. I love the business of sales, and the reason is it's one of the few things where you could start with nothing and make something. You find somebody who needs something, and you find someone who has something, and you put them together, and you've created something. And for those of you who think you're not a salesperson, you're probably married. And I want you to think about that. It's not a small thing. You convinced another person, or you attracted another person to actually say to themselves, not only am I going to spend the rest of my life with you, but I'm going to forsake everybody else on the planet. And there's like 7.5 billion people, and they decided you're the one. You figured out the way, what to do to attract, to continually offer value, and continually be the one for them to stay with. Baby, everybody's in sales.
Amen.
Everybody's in sales.
Amen. And make sure, guys, that you deliver the love and be about the love. And his 3 words, which I thought were great: be gracious, have gratitude, have courage, and most of all, let's be kind to each other. Dan Jourdan, thank you for being so kind to our gappers today. It was great to be with you, and God bless. Thank you. This is Glenn Bill.
This is wonderful.
This is Glenn Bill from the University of Attitude and the Get Attitude podcast, saying that I will see you later, and stay positive, my friends.